Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am accounts and finance trainer from Uplatz. Today, we will cover the topic of import and export under GST. Today, we will cover and we will discuss the provision of import and export under the GST. Import and the export under the GST. In our previous part, we have discussed about the what is import and export under GST. What is the import and the exportation under the GST? Means we have understand or we have discussed the introduction of such topic. Introduction of such topic, and we have discussed some important definitions. Some important definitions, just like importation of goods, export, import of services, and we have discussed location of supplier, place of supply, and we have discussed some important and the relevant definitions which are important to understand, which are very much important to understand so that you can understand the provision of import and export very easily. Now we will start the discussion on provisions of import and export under GST. So in this class, we will discuss import of goods under GST. We will discuss import of goods, imports of goods under the GST. So now we will start the discussion on import of goods under GST. Imports under the GST. Imports under the GST. What is the meaning of imports under the GST? And we will discuss import of goods under the GST and all other important provisions which are relating to the import under GST. Under the GST, Article 269A. Article 269A consistently mandate that supply of goods, supply of service in the course of import into the territory of India shall be deemed, it shall be deemed to supply of goods, supply of service in the course of interstate trade or commerce. Is that according to the article 269A of GST, GST mandated if there is any supply of any goods, supply of any services in the course of import, in the course of import into the territory of India, then it will be deemed, the supply of goods, supply of service in the course of interstate, means it will be considered as interstate supply. It will be considered as interstate supply. It will be considered as interstate supply. Normally, interstate supply means when the location of the supplier and the place of supply, when the location of supplier and the place of supply is both is in different state or in different union territory, and one is in state and one is in a union territory, then it too will be considered as interstate supply. In the GST, the import of goods, the import of services, or both will also be considered as interstate supply, because in this case the location of supplier is in outside India. It is not in India, and the place of supply is in India. It is India. It will not be considered as intrastate supply. It will not be considered as intrastate supply. And as per the GST provision, if there is any supply which is not intrastate supply, will be considered as interstate supply. Is that if any of the supply, we cannot classify it as intra-state supply, means which is not intra-state supply. Then all these supply will be considered as, then all these supply will be considered as interstate supply. So such import of goods, import of services, or both is not interstate supply, so it will be considered as intra-state supply. So import of goods, import of services is considered, or it is treated as interstate supply, interstate supply, and the IGST will be charged. Subject to IGST is that the IGST will be charged. Supply of goods and supply of service, when there is any supply of goods, supply of service, or both, which is interstate, then IGST will be charged. Supply of goods and supply, when there is any supply of goods, supply and services, supply of services, or both, to the special economic zone, when there is any supply of goods, supply of service, or both, to the SEZ units or to the SEZ development. When supply, when the supply of goods, supply of service, or both, to the SEZ unit or to the SEZ development, then it is treated as interstate supply. If there is any supply of any goods, supply of any services to a special economic zone unit or to a special economic zone developer, then it is also treated as interstate supply and subject to IGST. So when there is any import of goods, import of services, or both, then it will be considered as interstate supply and IGST will be charged. When there is any supply of goods, supply of services, or both, to the special economic zone, unit or developer, then it will also be considered as interstate supply and IGST will be charged. In case of goods, in the case of goods, the importer of goods pay IGST, and in the case of service, the importer of the service pay the IGST on the reverse charge basis. When there is any person who imports the goods from the any place outside India, then the importer of the goods, he will pay the amount of GST. The importer will pay the amount of GST. And in the case of service, when there is any service imported by the importer from any place outside India, then the amount of GST, the amount of IGST shall be paid by the importer under the reverse charge mechanism. As per the reverse charge mechanism, the recipient of the service shall be liable to make the payment of tax. So in this case, when there is any importation of services, then the receiver is importer of service, then he will be liable to make the payment of IGST under the reverse charge. However, in the respect of import of online information and database access or retrieval services, when there is any importation of online information and database access or retrieval services by the unregistered person or by the non-taxable recipient, means these services are imported and these services are received by the unregistered person or non-taxable recipient, then the supplier who is located outside India is responsible for the payment of GST. In this case, the person who is located outside India is responsible for make the payment of GST. For make the payment of GST. So in this case, the supplier is required to make the payment of IGST. Either the supplier of online information, database access of or retrieval services has to take registration or has to appoint a person in India for the payment of tax. For the purpose of this, he will, for the purpose of this, such a supplier will require to be registered under the GST, or he will appoint a person who will make the payment of tax on the behalf of him. On the behalf of such supplier, he will make the payment to tax. Is that if online information, data base access and retrieval services are received by unregistered person or the non-taxable recipient, then the supplier who is located outside India is responsible for make the payment of ITC. He is liable to make the payment of ITC. For the purpose of this, he will register in GST. He will take the registration under the GST, or he will he will appoint a person who will make the payment of tax, means payment of GST on the behalf of him. Importer exporter code. What is the importer and exporter code? IEC. What is the IEC? As per the DGFT's trade notice number 09, as per the DGFT's trade notice number 09 dated 12th June 2017. 12th June 2017, the PAN of an entity is to be used. The PAN, permanent account number of the entity, is to be used as IEC, importer exporter code. The PAN number of the entity is to be used as importer exporter code. If importer is registered under the GST, if the importer is registered under the GST, he is required to declare only GST number as PAN in the part of GST. If there is any importer, is registered under the GST, then he is required to declare only goods and service tax identification number as PAN in part of GST in the part of GST in. So importer exporter code is the PAN number of the entity. Now we will discuss import of goods. Now we will discuss the import of goods. What is the import of goods and the provision relating to the importation of goods under the GST. Number 1. GST on imported goods in addition to the duty of custom. When there is the importation of goods, then the basic custom duty is applicable. The custom duty is applicable. So the GST will be charged, or it will be levy on the imported goods. The GST is a levy, means the IGST is a levy on the imported goods in addition to the basic custom duty, or in addition to the custom duty. Section 7, subsection 2, Section 7, subsection 2, read with section 5. Section 7, subsection 2, read with section 5. Read with section 5. Import of goods means bringing goods in India from a place outside India. Import of goods means bringing goods into India from a place outside India. Supply of goods which is imported into the territory of India. Supply of goods which are imported into the territory of India till they cross the custom frontier of India. is deemed to be interstate supply. The supply of goods, which is imported into the territory of India till they cross the custom frontier of India. Definition of custom frontier of India is discussed by us in our previous video. So the meaning is same. The custom frontier of India, when there is any supply of goods which is imported into the territory of India till they cross the custom frontier of India, it is deemed to be interstate supply. It is deemed to be interstate supply, and IGST will be charged on such imported goods. The goods which are imported in India, the IGST will be charged or the IGST will be levied. And the amount of IGST is collected, and the amount of IGST is collected in the accordance with the provision of Section 3 of Custom Tariff Act 1975. The IGST on the imported goods is levied and it is collected in the accordance with the provision of Section 3 of Custom Tariff Act 1975. Thus, the goods which is imported into India are liable to GST, means the GST will be leviable. IGST will be leviable under the IGST Act. Under the IGST Act. Machinery of the custom law is used to levy and collect the same. The place of supply of goods, the goods which are imported into India. The place of supply of goods, the goods which are imported into India is the location of importer. Means the location of the importer will be considered the place of supply of goods, the location of importer. Thus, thus, if if an importer say, if the importer is say the location is Rajasthan. For the example, the location of the importer is Rajasthan. Then the state tax component of the ITC of the IGST accrues to the state of Rajasthan. Means if the importer of the goods is located in the Rajasthan, the goods is imported by the Rajasthan and the importer is located in the Rajasthan. Then the state tax component, of the IGST accrues to the state of Rajasthan. IGST on imported goods is levied in addition to other custom duties. The IGST on the imported goods is levied in addition to the custom duty. When there is any importation of goods, custom duty will be charged. The IGST on the imported goods is levied in addition to the custom duty. In addition, GST compensation cess. In addition to the custom duty and in addition to the IGST, the GST compensation cess may also be levied. The GST compensation cess may also be levied on the importation of luxury, on the importation of some luxurious goods, on the importation of deemed goods under the Goods and Service Tax Cess Act. Under the Goods and Service Tax Cess Act is that the IGST is levied on the imported goods, on the goods which are imported into India, in addition to the custom duty. In the case of luxury goods and in the case of demerit goods, in the case of luxurious goods or in the case of demerit goods, basic means custom duty plus IGST and GST compensation cess also be leviable. GST compensation cess will also be leviable. Is that custom duty, IGST and GST compensation cess is leviable. Accordingly, goods imported into India, accordingly, goods which are imported into India are, in addition to the applicable custom duty, liable to GST at such liable to IGST as such rate as leviable under the IGST on a like article on its supply in India. Accordingly, when there is any goods imported into India, then GST, then the tax is basic custom duty will be leviable in addition to the basic custom duty, or in addition to the custom duty, IGST will also be leviable. The IGST will also be leviable according to the provision of IGST Act. Bill of entry filed for import of goods now look like this. Is that the bill of entry for the importation of the goods is as follows. Means this is the sample of bill of entry. This is the sample of bill of entry which is required to be filed for the importation of goods, which is required to be filed for the importation of goods. Means now this is the bill of entry under the GST. Under the GST, the bill of entry is this, which is contained the column of custom duty, additional duty and IGST. Now in the GST, the bill of entry contains the column of custom duty, additional duty and IGST. So this is the format of bill of entry. This is the format of bill of entry. Point. When IGST is levied on imported goods, IGST is levied on the imported goods. Proviso to section 5 subsection 1. Proviso to section 5 subsection 1. IGST on the goods. IGST on the goods which is imported into India. IGST on the goods which are imported into India is levied and collected at the point when duty of customs are levied on the said goods under the Custom Act 1962. IGST on the goods which is imported into India, is levied and collected. It is levied and collected at the point when duty of the custom are levied. When the duty of the custom are levied on the said goods under the Custom Act 1962. Means IGST will be levied and the IGST will be collected when duty of custom are levied. When the duty of custom are levied. Custom duty is leviable when importation of the goods get complete. Custom duty is levied. Custom duty will be levied only when importation of the goods get complete. Is that when the goods become part of the mass of goods. When the goods become part of the mass of goods within the country, the taxable event being, in the case, the taxable event being reached at the time when the goods reach the custom barriers and bill of entry for the home consumption is filed. Under the GST, the IGST on the goods which are imported into India is levied and collected at the point when duty of custom are levied. When the duty of the custom are levied on the said goods which are imported into India under the Custom Act 1962. Custom duty is levied when the imported goods comes into India, means when the importation is completed, when the goods become part of mass of goods within the country. In the case of custom, the taxable event is the event when it is reached at that time. When the goods reach to the custom barriers and bill of entry for the home consumption is filed, then the importation will be complete. Then this is the point of levy of custom duty. Thus, the point of levy and collection of IGST is the point when bill of entry for the home consumption is filed. The time or the point of levy and collection of IGST is the point when the bill of entry for the home consumption is filed. So when the bill of entry for the home consumption is filed, both custom duty as well as IGST will be levied and collected. Taxable value of imported goods for levying IGST. Now we will discuss the taxable value of imported goods. The taxable value of imported goods for the levying IGST. Now we will discuss taxable value of imported goods. Taxable value of imported goods for calculating the amount of IGST. Section 3, subsection 8 of Custom Tariff Act 1975. Value of imported goods for levying IGST. Section 3, subsection 8 of Custom Tariff Act 1975. The value of goods for the purpose of levying IGST is the assessable value of the imported goods, which is determined under Section 14 of the Custom Tariff Act 1962, plus custom duty which is levied under that act, and any other sum which is chargeable to said goods under any law for the time being in force, as custom duty excluding IGST and CGST compensation says. The value of the goods for the purpose of levying IGST. The value of the goods for the purpose of levying IGST is the assessable value of the imported goods. The assessable value of the imported goods. The assessable value of the imported goods is determined under Section 40. The assessable value of the imported goods is determined under Section 40 of the Custom Act 1962. The assessable value shall be determined as per Section 40 of the Custom Act 1962 plus custom duty which is levied under this act, and any other sum which is chargeable on the said goods under any law for the time being in force. As custom duty is that for the calculation of IGST, the value shall be assessable value of the imported goods, which is determined as per Section 14 of Custom Act 1962 plus custom duty, which is levied under the Custom Act, plus any other sum which is chargeable on the said goods under any law for the time being in force, as custom duty excluding the IGST and GST compensation cess. So this is the value of the goods for calculating the amount of IGST, for levying the amount of IGST. Assessable value plus custom duty plus any other sum which is chargeable to tax under any other law for the time being in force, but it does not include IGST and GST compensation cess. Whenever the goods are also levied to GST compensation cess when there is any goods. Just like there is a luxurious goods, and luxurious goods is liable to compensation cess, GST compensation cess. The same is collected on the value. The GST compensation cess is calculated on the value which is used or which is taken for laying IGST. The value which is taken or which is used for calculate the IGST, the same is used for the calculation of GST compensation cess. In other word, GST paid under in other word paid GST paid shall the GST paid shall not be added to the value for the purpose of calculating IGST compensation cess. GST paid shall not be added to the value for the purpose of calculating IGST compensation cess. The IGST paid shall not be added when we calculate the IGST. Then when we calculate the GST compensation cess, then the IGST which is paid on it will not be added. It will not be added. Now, in case where imported goods are liable to anti-dumping duty, in case when imported goods are liable to anti-dumping duty or safeguards duty, in case where imported goods are liable to anti-dumping duty or safeguard duty, the value for the computation of IGST as well as IGST compensation cess also includes anti-dumping duty and safeguards duty. Is that the value for laying IGST on imported goods is equal to the value for laying IGST on imported goods is equal to value which is determined under section 14, value which is determined under section 14 of the Custom Act 1962, of the Custom Act 1962 plus basic custom duty plus any other sum leviable under any law for the time being in force as custom duty, excluding IGST and GST compensation cess. Value for laying IGST on imported goods is equal to value which is determined under section 14 of the Custom Act 1962 plus basic custom duty plus any other sum which is leviable under any law for the time being in force as custom duty, excluding IGST and GST compensation cess. So on the basis of this, we can compute the value of the imported goods on which IGST will be charged or the IGST will be levied. Applicability of IGST on goods which are supplied while being deposited in a custom bonded warehouse. Applicability of IGST on goods which are supplied while being deposited in the custom bonded warehouse. Section 3, subsection 8A of the Custom Tariff Act 1975. Section 3, subsection 8A of Custom Tariff Act 1975. 1975. The Custom Act 1962 permits goods that have entered into India to be deposited in the bonded warehouse by filing into bond bill of entry. Is that Custom Act 1962 permit goods when the goods are entered or when the goods are come came into India to be deposited into the custom bonded warehouse by filing in bond bill of entry. Means we can deposit these imported goods into custom station, into the custom warehouse by filing the into bonded bill of entry, by filing the into bonded bill of entry without the payment of tax, without the payment of duty. Without the payment of duty, we can deposit such imported goods in the warehouse, in the custom warehouse. The importer is at liberty to transfer the ownership of such goods to the another person while the goods remain deposited into the warehouse. Is that in this case, when the goods are deposited into the warehouse, in this situation, the importer, he has an option or he has the liberty that if he want to transfer or if he want to supply these goods to the any other person, he can do so. Means he can transfer the ownership, he can transfer the ownership of such goods to the any other person. For the example, Mr. Ram, he has imported some goods from Japan. He the goods which are received or which are imported are in the custom warehouse, in the bonded warehouse. Now, Mr. Ram wants to supply such goods or he wants to transfer the ownership. He wants to transfer the ownership of such goods to Mr. Shah. So in this case, in this case, in this case he can in this case he can transfer the ownership of such goods to the another person. Now he can transfer the goods to the he can transfer the ownership of such goods to the another person while the goods will remain deposited into the warehouse. So he has the liberty, he can transfer the ownership of such goods to the person, to the another person. However, the supply of the supply of warehouse goods, bonded warehouse goods to any person before the clearance of home consumption is neither a supply of goods nor a supply of service. Is that when the ownership of the goods is transferred by Ram to Mr. Shyam before the clearance of such goods for the home consumption, it will be considered as it will neither consider as supply of goods nor consider as supply of service. Means it is it is not considered as supply. It is neither considered as supply of goods, neither considered as supply of service. Means it will not be considered as supply. It will not be considered as supply in the term of paragraph 8A, in the term of paragraph 8A of Schedule 3 to the CGST Act. Schedule 3 of the CGST Act is covered by us in our another video. So you can understand such point by this video. Is that when there is any transfer of ownership of the goods from one person to another person, when the goods are not cleared for the home consumption, then it will neither consider as supply of goods nor consider as supply of service as per schedule 3. Here warehouse goods has the same meaning. Here, the warehouse goods has the same meaning as assigned in the Custom Act 1962. Means the warehouse goods has the same meaning which is defined in Custom Act 1962. Same definition is there. Further, the value of in bond sale is not included in the value of exempted supply. for the purpose of reversal of ITC under Rule 42 and 43 of CGST rule. Further, the value of the imbonded sale is not included in the value of import, sorry, in the not included in the value of exempt supply for the purpose of reversal of ITC under Rule 42 and Rule 43 of CGST. In the case of this, it is to be noted that in this case, it is to be noted that the basic custom duty which is paid on the warehouse goods, it is to be noted that the basic custom duty which is paid on the warehouse goods at the stage of ex bonding is calculated on the value which is determined as per section 14 of custom Act 1962 at the time of filing of in bond bill of entry is that the basic custom duty on the warehouse goods, the basic custom duty is required to be paid on the bonded warehouse good at the stage of ex bonding is calculated, means the custom duty is required to be calculated on the basis of value which is determined as per section 14 of the Custom Act 1962 at the time of filing of in bond bill of entry, at the time of filing of in bond bill of entry. So we will calculate the custom duty as per section 40 of the Custom Act 1962 when the warehouse goods, in the respect of warehouse goods. However, value of imported goods for laying IGST in the case of supply of warehouse goods is determined as under the value of imported goods for laying the IGST in the case of supply of warehouse goods is determined as follows. Value of laying IGST in the case of supply of warehouse is equal to transaction value is equal to transaction value or value which is determined at the time of filing of into bond bill of entry under section 14 of the Custom Act 1962 plus basic custom duty plus any other sum which is leviable under any law for the time being in force as duty excluding IGST plus and GST compensation cess. The value of supply is equal to transaction value or the value which is determined at the time of filing into bond bill of entry under section 14 of the Custom Tariff Act 1962 plus basic custom duty plus any other leviable any other sum which is leviable under any law for the time being in force as custom duty excluding GST and excluding IGST and GST compensation. So this is the value. This is the value on which IGST will be leviable, on which the IGST will be charged. If the goods are sold more than once, if the goods are sold more than once, while the goods are deposited in the warehouse, if the goods are sold more than one time, means some goods are sold to Ram first time and then after some goods to sold to Shyam second time and third time it's sold to Mohan. When these goods are deposited in the warehouse, then the last transaction value is taken as the transaction value. Then the last transaction value will be considered or will be taken as a transaction value for the purpose of determining the value of IGST. Means last transaction value will be considered for the calculation of IGST, for the calculation of amount of IGST. Last transaction value. If only a part of the goods are sold, only only a particular part of the goods are sold. The two values are to be calculated. Two values are calculated and compared. If only single part of goods are sold, then two values that are to be compared. Number one, transaction value. Number one, transaction value of the goods which are sold. Number one, transaction value of the goods which are sold. And number two, proportionate value. Proportionate value means proportionate value of the goods which are sold. So the proportionate value which is determined at the time of filing, proportionate value which is determined at the time of filing the into bond bill of entry under section 40, which is determined at the time of filing of into bond bill of entry, and such amount which is calculated or which is determined as per section 14 of custom act 1962 plus basic custom duty plus any other sum leviable under any law for the time being in force as custom duty excluding IGST and GST compensation cess and GST compensation cess. The remaining goods, the goods which are not sold, then in the case of remaining goods, these goods are assessed on the value which is determined as per section 40. Remaining goods which are not sold are the assessable value in the case of remaining goods are determined as per the or according to the section 14 of custom act plus basic custom duty plus any other sum which is leviable under any law for the time being in force as custom duty excluding IGST and GST compensation cess. IGST and GST compensation cess. Now we will discuss the taxability of high C sale. Taxability of high C sale. High C sale is a common trade practice whereby the original importer sell his goods to the third party before the goods are entered from custom clearance. Is that high C sale means when the goods when the goods are sold by the when the goods are sold by the original importer to the third party before the goods are entered for the custom clearance means before the custom clearance the original exporter transfer the ownership or sold some goods to the third party to the another party. For the example, before the custom clearance, Ram transferred the goods or Ram sold the goods to the Sham before its clearance, before its custom clearance. Then such sale is to be known as high C sale. After the high C sale of goods, custom declaration is that the bill of entry is required to be filed by the person who buy the goods. Means in this case, when the high C sale is made, the custom declaration is that the bill of entry is required to be filed by Mr. Shah. Now it is not filed by the original importer. Means who buy the goods from the original importer. Now he will file a bill of entry. He will file a bill of entry. So, Mr. Sham, as per the example, Mr. Sham will present the bill of entry. Now, Mr. Ram will not present bill of entry. He will not declare, he will not present bill of entry. However, the supply of goods by the consignee, however, when there is any supply of goods by the consignee to any other person, however, when there is any supply of goods by the consignee to any other person by the endorsement of document of title title to goods after the goods have been dispatched from the port of origin, which is located outside India, but before the home clearance, is neither treated as supply of goods nor supply of service in the term of paragraph 8b of Schedule 3 of CGST Act. However, when the goods are supplied by the consignee to the other person only for the purpose of endorsement by the endorsement of document of the title of goods after the goods has been dispatched from the port after the goods has been dispatched from port from the port of origin located outside India, but before the home clearance, then it will neither consider as supply of goods nor consider as supply of service in the term of Schedule 3. Means according to Schedule 3, it will not be considered as supply. Further, the value of such high sea sale is not included. Further, the value of such high sea sale is not included in the value of exempted supply for the purpose of reversal of ITC under Rule 42 and Rule 43 of CGST. Further, the value of high sea sale is not included in the value of exempt supply of exempt supply of goods for the purpose of reversal of ITC. As per Section 14 of the Custom Act 1962, the value for the purpose of charging custom duty on the imported goods is the value at the time of importation. As per Section 14 of the Custom Act 1962, the value for the purpose of charging custom duty on imported goods is the value at the time of importation. The value which is available at the time of importation is that at the time of filing of bill of entry. Further, IGST on the imported goods is also levied. Further, the amount of IGST will also charge on such imported goods at the time of filing of bill of entry. Therefore, in the case of high sea sale, the assessable value of the imported goods for laying the custom duty and for laying the IGST is determined on the basis of price which is paid by the last high sea sale buyer who files the bill of entry for the home consumption. Is that if there is any high sea sale, then the assessable value of the imported goods for laying the amount of custom duty and for laying the amount of IGST is to be determined on the basis of price, which is required to be paid, by the last high sea sailor on his high sea sale, which is paid by the last high sea sale buyer who files the bill of entry for the home consumption. We will determine it and we will ask it from the last high sea sale buyer so that we can calculate the amount of custom duty and IGST on such goods. Circular number 33 2017 come dated 1st August 2017 has clarified that the importer, last buyer in the chain, means the importer would be required to furnish. The importer is required to furnish the entire chain of documents. The importer would be required to furnish the entire chain of documents such as original invoice, high sea sale contract, detail of service charges, amount of commission paid, etc., to establish the link between the first connected person of the goods and the last transaction. Means the last buyer or the importer is required to furnish all the relevant document and all the entire chain of documents such as original invoice, high C sale contract, detail of service charges, detail of commission which is paid to establish a link between the first connected person to the first connected person of the goods and the last transaction, so that the transaction so that the detail about the each of the transaction can be clearly and separately shown. It is clearly available from starting to end. Third party shipment. Now we will discuss third party shipment. What is the meaning of third country shipment? Third country shipment. What is the meaning of third country shipment? Third country shipment or triangle trade is a common practice in the international trade. Third country shipment or triangle trade is a common practice in international trade, whereby goods move from one country to another, where the goods moved from one country to another without touching India. In the case of third country shipment, the goods moves from one country to another country without touching India. Only invoice is done by the registered person in India. Only invoicing is done in India. But such goods transfer from one country to another country without touching India. For example, we will discuss it by the way of example. A is a registered person in India. He receives an order to supply goods to B in US. Mr. A, he is registered in India. He received an order to supply goods to B in USA. A finds a supplier C. A finds a supplier C in the Singapore and asks him to supply such goods to B in USA on the behalf of me. So in this case, two invoices are raised. The two invoice is raised. One by A, one by A, who is the registered person of India, who is the registered person in India, on B, who is in USA. And other invoice is issued or made by C in Singapore to A in India. In this case, the point to be noted that such goods will be transferred from Singapore to USA. It will be transferred from Singapore to USA without touch India. Without touch India. These goods are shipped by sea from Singapore to B in USA. So it is to be known as third country shipment. It is to be known as third country shipment in which the goods are transferred or it is moved from one country to another country. From one country to another country, only invoicing is made in India. Only invoicing is made in India. Paragraph 7 of Schedule 3. Paragraph 7 of Schedule 3 of CGST Act provide that supply of goods from a place in non-taxable territory to a place in non-taxable territory without such goods entering into India is treated as neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Is that there is no GST liability on such sale. Is that in the case of third country shipment, it will not be considered as supply as per Schedule 3. If it is not considered as supply, then the provision of GST will not be applicable. The provision of GST will not be applicable. Further, the value of third country shipment is not included in the value of exempted supply for the purpose of reversal of ITC under Rule 42 and under Rule 43 of CGST rule. The value of third country shipment is not included in the value of exempt supply for the purpose of reversal of ITC under Rule 42 and under Rule 43 of CGST rule of CGST rule. Now we will discuss the taxability of the goods which is imported by SEZ. Taxability of goods which are imported by SEZ. As per the provision of GST, if there is any goods which is supplied to SEZ or which is supplied from SEZ, will be considered as import of goods and export of goods respectively. Supply from SEZ, it will be considered import, and supply to SEZ, it will be considered as export. So now we will discuss the taxability of the goods which is imported by SEZ, which are imported by SEZ. Goods which are imported by a unit or a developer in the special economic zone for authorized operation are exempted from whole of GST levy under section 3 subsection 7 of Custom Tariff Act. Is that if there is any goods which is imported by a SEZ unit or by the SEZ developer in the SEZ for authorized operation, then the such supply will be exempted from GST. No GST will be charged under section 3 subsection 7 of Custom Tariff Act 1975 by the notification number 64 2017. Means goods imported by SEZ unit or SEZ developer will be exempted from tax, will be exempted from whole of IGST. Taxability of goods imported by EOU. Taxability of the goods when the goods are imported by EOU, export oriented unit. Goods imported by EOU. Goods imported by the EOU means export oriented undertaking attract liability of custom duty when there is any goods which is imported by the export oriented undertaking, then it is attract liability to customs, it is attract the liability of custom duty. Import of goods by the 100% EOU, when there is any import of goods by the 100% EOU are governed by notification number 52 2003 come as amendment. EOU are allowed duty free import of goods. EOU are allowed duty free imported goods under the said notification. However, exempt from IGST will be available till 31st March 2021. Is that any of the goods which is imported by EOU, then it will be duty free, means exempt from custom duty, exempt from IGST, exempt from GST compensation cess. Such exemption is available till 31st March 2021. Such exemption is available till 31st March 2021. Import as baggage. Passenger baggage is exempted. Passenger baggage is exempted from IGST as well as GST compensation cess. Passenger baggage is exempted from the GST, from IGST as well as GST compensation cess. The basic custom duty at the rate of 35% and applicable special welfare surcharge is leviable on the value which is in excess of duty free allowance provided under the baggage rule 2016. The basic custom duty at the rate of 35% is applicable and applicable special welfare surcharge is leviable on the value which is in excess of duty free allowance provided under the baggage rule 2016. Means if the amount or the value is more than the allowance which is provided under the baggage rule, then the tax will be 35%. So on the basis of such discussion, we have understand import import of goods. We have understand import of goods under the GST, and we have discussed the provision which are relating to the importation of goods. So thank you so much for watching this video. Okay, bye bye and have a nice day.